What's going on, everybody, and welcome to In the Tank Live with Keith, Deyo, and Aaron Hairston. Fired up, Transformation Thursday. Whipping butt this week, man. Oh, my goodness gracious. This week had it out for me, I'm telling you right now. But you know what? It's really, really, really exciting to kind of see the way that you can handle things if you let go, right? I think that's the key, guys. Let go. And so as we talk about that, I'm going to elaborate a little more. I got you, Keith. Let's go, kid. Let's go. Larry, what's up, man? Doug, what's going on, man? Yes. What's up, Christine? What's up? So this morning I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I know y'all probably had these nights before, tossing and turning. The rain started, and I was just like, dang, I can't sleep. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, I'm going to get up. I got people in Australia. Why not? Right? So I get on the phone, and I start texting people and messaging people out in Australia. And we had some great conversations. So, it was definitely beneficial. I think it was like 7 o'clock at night there. And so it was beneficial. But see, the thing is that as I went out in my living room, the rain started coming down. I started thinking about success, right? And really what it could mean. And for many, it's money, right? It's, I got all this money. I can do what I want. And that's important, right? Having resources. Relationships. Some people say, I got the finest girl. I got the finest guy. I got the best husband. I got the best wife. I got the greatest parents. I got brothers and sisters. I got kids, and all that's important as well. And then there's freedom, time freedom, right? People are like, shoot, I could do what I want with who I want for as long as I want, right? And so there comes a point in time, and this is what I'm learning from a lot of my mentors, and my mentors are freaking super successful if we were using those categories I just spoke about. And they've taught me something very important. They said, remember when you were an athlete? And I said, yeah, heck yeah, man. Shoot, I'm still an athlete. And they go, remember when you had like these games, these big playoff games, and allowing yourself to conform to the opponent? And so what that means is playing down, right? So maybe your opponent hasn't had as many wins this season. However, they're still in the playoffs. Or you're at the tail end of your season and you're playing maybe some of the weaker weaker opponents just by the schedule and maybe talent on the field and maybe skill set, stat wise, and you start playing down to your opponent. And I said, yeah, I remember that. And they said, have you ever lost games like that? And I said, yeah, actually I have. And it was hurtful. What up, Nick? As you lose a game to a guy that you know that you shouldn't have lost to. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, Nick, that's what's going on, brother. Let's go live, baby. And so I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, man, yeah. I always heard the coach say, don't play down to your opponent. Play your game. Play your game. It's important that you remember to play your game. It's you versus you, and all these fancy sayings. And I started realizing that life is the same way. I have people that make a lot of money. I know people that have a lot of expensive things. I know people that have a lot of time freedom. They do what they want with who they want for as long as they want. And I also know people that have found themselves. What up, Keith? I'm going to bring you on here, brother. People that have found themselves. And play your game. And here's the key. This is what I found out. And I was listening to some Eric Thomas this morning at 5:30 this morning. And I was thinking about what he said. He said, you got to have a mental rock bottom. A mental rock bottom before your physical rock bottom. And so what I was able to translate that with was that game, okay? That game when you're playing an opponent that in your mind you have already beaten, right? They don't have as many wins as you. They don't have the star, athletes like your team does. Or, the guy that plays your position is not as good as you. Right? And all of a sudden you play that person off. You're like, nah, man, I'm just gonna show up today, man. Because you know what? These dudes are gonna lay down. They ain't gonna play this 10-0 team. And then we lose. Right? And all of a sudden you're like, what happened? And so as you look at life, the same thing happens. If you play down to your opponent, if you play down to the things that are easy, right? Life will catch up with you. A shift will happen. And all of a sudden, you're in a position that you never thought you would be in. You thought you were on top of the world. You thought that you had accomplished everything you needed to accomplish, so therefore you don't need to grow no more, right? There's no more need for transformation. I am who I want to be. I'm good. And so as I look back at what Eric Thomas was saying. He says you got to have a mental rock bottom, because that's going to be your warning sign. You know, when you get to that green light and all of a sudden it turns yellow, right? You got a choice to make. You can slow down because you know the red light's coming, or you can speed up. Now, what are the risks if you speed up? If you speed up, you maybe fly through an intersection as somebody else is anticipating their red turning to green, right? And all of a sudden, boom, you got yourself in a dilemma where you thought you were good, right? So always be planning what's next. Always be planning what's next. What's going to happen if I achieve this? Yes, I can celebrate for a short period of time because I've accomplished what I set out to do, but what's next? And I know, Keith, we've talked about this before. And so, you know, Eric Thomas talks about having that mental rock bottom, that warning sign before you actually hit physical rock bottom. And where now you're looking at yourself like, how the hell did this happen? You allowed yourself to ignore the warning signs of declining and dying, right? While you were sitting there and loathing in your success. And it's important because a lot of times, you know, my wife and I, we were having a conversation this morning about careers. Okay. And, you know, she was talking about how people, they don't follow through. They don't follow through. They don't do what they said they're going to do. But yet they're in a position where they're getting paid to do what accordingly they were hired to do. Okay. And, you know, as an entrepreneur, we don't get to do that thing. We don't get to do that. If we don't do, and if we don't become, we don't succeed. And even when we succeed, we must become more, or else someone else works us. And all of a sudden, we've missed the boat. And so, Keith, that's where I'm at today, man. You know, in regards to this Transformation Thursday, is making sure you have the plan of having what's next after you've succeeded the plan that you had beforehand.
Yeah, Aaron, it's all about owning up. And so when you talk about that, the reason why entrepreneurship makes so much sense to athletes is because we're all about building teams. We're all about creating anew. We're all about being comfortable in the uncertainty of what life's biggest gifts, on the journey of how life's biggest gifts reveal themselves to us. And so if you look at it like that, and what an entrepreneur gets to do, and what's familiar with us as an athlete versus somebody that may be in a corporate position or somewhere where they can hide, is as an athlete, especially as somebody that was used to being in the game and the game always being in them, you can't stand on a field. Well, you can. If you stand on the field, you're not only going to hurt your team, but you're going to get taken off the field. You're going to get put back on the bench. And we're not about that. And so you'll find that many of today's entrepreneurs have that in common. The majority of today's ex-athletes, especially the ones that have made it pro, are now entrepreneurs. They went into their own business because of their circle of influence, their level of influence, and their beliefs in themselves to get it done. And they know they're not going to stand still. And so what Eric Thomas was talking about when he mentioned that mental rock bottom, that was for people that physically haven't gone through it, or specifically it came up because he was telling a story about his son. And his son was successful. His son has been successful. He's gone through school. He's gone through grad school. He's now getting out, has a great job in the financial industry down in New York City. He's got it all. And he's about 3 months from graduation in the story. And he tells him, he says, look, about 3 months and a day, you're about to have all your dreams, everything you've ever wanted to do since you're a little kid, come to fruition. And you're about to be basically dead inside. He goes, so I know that on this track, you may not hit a physical rock bottom over that time span, but what we need to understand is that you've got a hard stop inside of you, and you can do that mentally. You can do that spiritually. Anytime you're looking for something to get to the next level, and to make sure that it's not through an unhealthy form of what was next in that video, was talking about comparison. And when you're in a world of comparison and how deadly that is, especially to someone that's looking to succeed and do something that's specific to them, and competition is the exact same thing. And what happens is our ego gets inserted in there, and we'll do anything to keep us safe. And so when you look at that, and you look at having that hard stop, if you don't want to use the word rock bottom, it's called a hard stop. And you cap your losses in everything you do to make sure that when you get to that area, it doesn't crush you, it doesn't kill you, it doesn't create stagnation. So you get that moss that grows on top of ponds, or that pond scum. You aren't the pond that scum is going to grow on. What it does for you is it allows you to see it, get close enough where either the pressure will bring you back up, or the the pain that you're about to go through will allow you to move forward. That's what he's really talking about. And when you're in an area of transformation, it's all about owning what it is you are about to do. It's not necessarily, you're not quite in identity yet. You can go either way, right, Aaron? As we're going through this growth through mindset, this Envision You module, right? That's all coming up. I did my homework. So it's all fresh right here. And the process of transformation is really, you can go either way. Your ability, your basically, your confidence can go either way. You kind of, you know what you need to do, and now you know what you need to do. You're still excited about it, but you could also not do it. You now are presented with a choice on the way to identity, and it's going to take that one more push. And for a lot of people to do that, it's almost like that bottom for them is a springboard. That's where it's come up in my life, because I've never really sat in misery. I've never really sat in a mood for too long. So when I cap my losses, I create those hard stops. I make sure there's a springboard there. So I'm like Tigger, and Tigger's bounce.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting, and the best way I can relate it to is sports, because when you start playing that comparison game, you're saying, okay, well, we're 8-2, we're playing a 1-18, right? Or a 1-19. Like, we look at that comparison and we start to play our game the way that we're perceiving they're going to play. So we just go ahead and we play to their opponent, right? So now we start thinking about conformity, right? And in the world today, there's a lot of that going on. And it's that accountability part that people aren't taking ownership for what it is that. Sorry, guys, I got a phone call. And so they're not taking accountability for what they said they would do, but yet they're being paid for what it is that they said they were due, right? And then the person
for what they're being told to do, but they're not doing what they're not actually doing it.
Doing it, exactly. And so when we look at our lives, we must always keep that in the back of our mind is, okay, am I showing up? And if I'm not, why am I not? Right? Not because I'm going to get in trouble, right? Because people hide it very well. I mean, people do 60% of their position and get 100% payment, and they continue to do it, right? Because the person above them is doing the same thing, and the leadership is structured that way, right? And so now everybody's like, okay, well, I'm not going to whistleblow on that person because I don't want them to look out for me. I want them to look out for me so I can continue to play half-assed, right? And so when you're exposed, I think that's when people start to get all upset and they get all worked up. And I tell you that you can prepare ahead of time so that doesn't happen, right? Just like Keith said, prepare that mental rock bottom before that happens, because we can get easily coddled into conformity, right? Yeah. The world has been based that way for you not to lose and everybody to play equal, right? That's how it's been designed. And so if you just play average, you will win, or at least some sort of version of it. Right. And so as an athlete, I've never felt that was ever me. Right. So I always played and outperformed. I always felt that if we're playing a 1-9 team, I'm busting their tail. I'm putting up 1,000 points. Like, I'm not trying to take it easy on these dudes because I'm trying to blow up. I'm trying to get better. You know what I mean? I'm trying to play the championship at my best and my peak. I'm not trying to take a level off or take a day or a play off. Like, I'm trying to game up. But there's a level of attitude that has to come alongside that. Right. And it's hard. It ain't easy, because if it was easy, then shit, it wouldn't be as valuable as it is. That hard work, that effort, that attitude, and I love how Ray Lewis talks about it. He says, listen, this is what it is.
It's between you and you.
I'm showing up. Exactly. It's between me and that guy in the mirror. And then I know that at any point I can beat that guy and I can lose to that guy. And so which one is going to be today?
Yeah, and Aaron, when I'm presented with a situation where I can get away with being less of who I am and who I was born to be, when I'm presented with one of those situations, where I put the most work in and conscious attention towards is, what am I going to do about this situation calling less of me? And how am I going to approach it so that I can still grow in the environment or the situation? Is there an area that I'm working on that I may not be a 10 out of 10 in the moment, that I have tools and resources that I can apply in a different area, not to handicap me as a person, but to handicap the situation so that I can grow in another area? And if not, what I end up doing is I'm consciously aware of, and we'll use the sports analogy, where if we're going against a team that's either down and out, they're not as talented, they're not ready to play us, and we go in and instead of playing at their level, we play at our level for as long as we need to, so that the people with less experience can get in and they can get the necessary experience for when we need depth. Because without depth, what's going to happen is everything's going to be so superficial that it's going to end up being short term, or it's going to be a very short ride. And so we can allow others to grow in those situations, but we can't do it without ourselves going first. We don't put them in first. They're not here to start. They weren't born, they're not ready to have that starting role. We go in, we take care of business, we set the standard, raise the bar, and then let them go and perform to that standard, rather than having them go in and still perform at that lower level just because we're not in the game.
And Caleb, I want to ask you a question. Remember you were working out yesterday, right? You were doing your leg lifts and your sit-ups, and your push-ups, and you said what? What did you say when it got hard? What did you say?
You said
you remember?
You
said I'll never give up, right?
Yeah.
I never give up, right? You keep working hard, right? And it's so important. You know what I mean? Like I see him pushing through those exercises, and I didn't have to teach him that.
Nope.
Right? I just showed him it. Right? He sees me doing it. Right? He sees me doing it every single day. And you know, it's full disclosure in my home. And so if I'm having a rough day, I'm letting people know and say, listen, today's a tough day. Guess what? Hands across the chest.
Pistons are the best.
That's what I'm talking about. And so it's all about creating that culture, right? Inside your own mind and knowing that it's you versus you and it's time to show up. And I tell you right now, if you're a parent, your kids are watching you, right? They're watching you. And if you conform and you come home and you just take it off, right? And say, you know what? I'm done for the day. And they're going to look at you and be like, well, what happened about this and what happened about that? I'm telling you right now, it's going to be full exposed. And then when it comes push to shove and your kid is quitting, is giving up on things, you're not holding them accountable, I can guarantee you this, that you know what? There was a day that you weren't paying attention, right? And all of a sudden, that got recorded with these little red lights that are blinking all day long, recording what's going on. And that's what it's about, guys. It's about transforming and using that line to say, you know what? It's better that I keep going because I've put in the work so far, and so I'm not going to give it up now, than to say, you know what? I'd rather go ahead and start over and give up all of the sweat and tears that I've basically given up to this point, but this point seems too hard, so I'm going to give up and go and start over. It's your choice. However, I'm gonna encourage you that you always have a plan of what's next, and when you reach it, and when you achieve it, you say, you know what? Let's celebrate for a short time. But you know what? We back in the gym again. We working, we lifting, we giving on the resistance, and we getting that working.
Yeah, Aaron, and one of the worst feelings you can have as a parent is watching a child of yours do something or not do something because they learned it from watching you. Remember those commercials?
Oh yeah.
What are you doing?
Watching
you're doing drugs?
Yes.
I learned it from watching you, okay? It's one of the worst feelings you'll ever experience as a parent. Seeing your child do something that they got from you that harms themselves or someone else. And then one of the best feelings as a parent is when you see your child, son or daughter, adopted sibling, somebody that you've brought into your life, do something because of you, because they saw you model it. And it saved a life, a person doing good, allowing somebody to grow in that environment. There's no better feeling, and that's really what we're here for. That's what keeps us coming back. That's what brought us. That's what brought these children to us, because there was lessons that we weren't learning. We were too thick in the head. We weren't learning the lessons without the children there, and now they're here to teach us. And that's one of the greatest gifts we can ever be given, is a child to come into your life, choose you, and teach you what life really is all about, and get you out of your own head, past all the bullshit you think you make life about, and really get down to what really matters.
Let's go, guys. It's time to win the game, guys. And so the game is you versus you. You choose Which one are you going to be? You're going to be the opponent that plays down to its opponent, or are you going to be the opponent that dominates and says, you know what, I don't care what game you're playing. I came here to show up, and I came here to dominate. And so for all those who have chimed in today, and you get the message, guys, we thank you for being a heartbeat of our broadcast, and every single day jumping on here to get charged up and understanding why what you do is what you do. And for all those that will see this on replay, the hundreds and thousands of people that will continue to share this message all over the world, we continue to encourage the togetherness. As one world, as one team, we all need to come together to understand that we're all on a mission of greatness. Whether we all know it or not, somebody does, and it's our job to go out there and teach it. Transformation Thursday, guys. Let's go crush it. We'll see you later, guys. God bless. Peace.